Hey y'all, Olly Summers here, and I am going to be presenting on my master's thesis final. That's right, I've reached the end of my road at Colorado Christian University in their program for Masters of Organizational Leadership. And this course is my capstone course where I get to present, finish my thesis manuscript, and present on that thesis. And so that's what we're going to cover today. And I'm really excited about it. I have grown a lot. I've learned a ton. My worldview has changed a lot. I've had more in-depth and greater conversations with other learners, with other people in my life. I feel like I have more agency. I feel like I can have more influence on the world around me. It's been just a wonderful journey. And this thesis is certainly an accumulation of my time, not only my experience of the course, but my experience outside the course and how I've applied a lot of the material. And that application, almost that blend, or I guess you would say the praxis of the material and real-world experience has led me to a question that really drove my master's thesis. And I'll give you a little background before I give you that question, because it ended up being my research question or my thesis statement. But obviously, I haven't probably been working that long. I'm a younger guy. I have had a younger career. But even in my short time, I've realized that I've grown so much when I give myself, when I give my time, my energy, my gifts, my talents to the work that I do, to the relationships that I'm in, and to the world around me. And so it made me think, man, I wonder how or if that the way that God designed things to work is if He really wants to use how we work or what we give our energy to, if that is used as almost a reciprocating effect to really grow us and challenge us. Well, the obvious answer is, well, yeah, sure, I've grown so much from all my experiences, from my work life, from my relationships, from the extracurricular activities I give myself to. It sounds like it makes sense, but what if, and here is my thesis research question, is what if organizations leveraged their design, so organizational design, organizational structure, what if they manipulated that to purposely drive and influence leadership development? What if the way organizations saw themselves were as not just as a place to get work done, because that certainly is what organizations are for. It's to gather people and resources together to accomplish something, right? Well, what if they saw themselves as a vehicle to grow and develop and challenge their employees? Gosh, could you imagine if organizations all over the world harnessed and tapped into people's God-given talents and abilities, not only making them better, but seeing a reciprocating effect from their growth and achievement pouring back into the organization? Wow, you talk about compounding interest. That sounds great. And so that's what drove my research, and was also kind of driving my personal life and where I was at personally as a young man and young in my career, just looking at how that research can shape me and my growth from here on out. So I'm going to dig into explaining a little more of my thesis paper, kind of some of that direction from here on out. And so obviously in that thesis research question, I had two elements: organizational design and leadership development. So that is how I broke my thesis research down. So I spent half of my overview, my literature review, my research focused on organizational design, and the other half focused on leadership development. So with the organizational design piece, I focused on exactly that: organizational design being what design is, how are we defining that, what some of its history was. We also looked at how organizations grew, how they developed over time, how they matured. I found that through the research, and hopefully you see this as well, that organizations really have life cycles. They have a conception and a death, just like people do, just like all living organisms. So that's unique to know and to find as you try and place leadership throughout an organization. You've got to understand where it is in its design and in its life cycle. Ultimately, the organizational design section of my research had a capstone to it and kind of had an end or almost a future projection of what organizations should strive for. And that section was focused on organizational agility. Now, it is an understatement to say that our world today is hyper-connected and very, very fast. It's moving at the speed of light, or I guess, honestly, at the speed of Apple, as fast as they want to create things. We know it's hyper-connected. Business is done. I'm phoning this video conference in, or this presentation in. Business is done quicker than ever. Organizations can move quicker than ever. And if an organization, you'll see this in the research, decides to stay in a traditional organizational model, kind of like a pyramid where CEOs at the top and on down are tiers below them, if they stay in that design, they're probably, they have a higher percentage of being irrelevant in the next few years because of how fast the marketplace is. Organizations can no longer choose to do business how they prefer to do it. They've got to be able to be agile enough to keep up with the marketplace. The marketplace determines their structure. It's not the other way around. And so that organizational agility model will really drive the following section, which is focused on leadership development. So in almost a mirrored type of research study, we looked at organizational development, traditional type of organizational development models, which is particularly based on promoting people or putting people in leadership positions based on their tenure or experience in a certain position, not necessarily tapping into or allowing them to be challenged, refined, and having opportunities to grow or move into leadership positions. Then moving into the research, we looked at what happens if you do live in an organizational agility model and allow leadership development to happen in that. So go on and take a peek in that section because the leadership development trends for today and in the future, aligning with organizational agility, will have a tremendous amount more leadership development opportunities, evaluation, performance increases, all good things that organizations and leadership development alike can have in common. And lastly, in the leadership section, we do a unique case study on the life of Jesus Christ and looking at how he came into a world that you could say was stuck in a traditional organizational structure, a pyramid type of structure. If you remember from Jesus' life, he grew up in a world where the Jewish tradition had really moved into a hierarchical kind of power monger type of, a really political type of setting. And unfortunately, that's not the model that God wanted when he created some sort of agency and an intimacy with him. He didn't want it to be in a hierarchical political matter. What Jesus did is he uniquely chipped away at that structure, which was so threatening, chipped away at that structure by having a flatter, more mobile, more agile organizational structure in the way Jesus did things, kind of as an executive, which is wonderful to think about. He made things more agile, and because of that, the gospel, intimacy with God that was possible through him, through Jesus, was spread quicker and faster and accessible to way more many people than the Jewish tradition that was so centered around the power and authority in other people. So Jesus had a wide organization, was very fast, was very agile, and guess who became the leaders of the early Christian church? Well, it was the team that he led and developed and put in place of leadership positions. And they weren't groomed for years and years and years and had to wait 10 years for the next promotion. he placed them and grew them uniquely based off their talent. And you and I and maybe many other people that are watching this know about Jesus because of his early organizational design and how he chose to implement his gospel throughout the world. And it's working, and it's going to continue to work. And organizations that mirror that more than likely will have similar results. So needless to say, this research is incredibly applicable to organizations and to leaders everywhere. It has this research has no discrimination to it. It works for any industry, any size, and any age group. So leaders that are really looking to move themselves from a traditional organizational design, so again, think pyramid style of structure, to a more agile, more agile organization, will not only see their performance as an organization increase, but also see opportunity for more leadership growth and development. They go hand in hand, which is a beautiful outline in this research. Now, of course, there's some limitations, and I just mentioned a few of those, or hinted towards a few of those. One of those specifically was the changing tides in the workplace demographics. So today, we have a massive blend of age groups. I mentioned, I'm a younger guy getting into the career world. There's also folks that are probably 30, 40 years older than me that are still, planning another 5, 10 years of work in front of them. So it's a unique, very unique and diverse workforce now more than ever. And the folks in leadership positions have a fiduciary responsibility to build their organizations to this point to match the needs of upcoming younger workforce, their wants, their desires, their needs. And a big drive of that is these leadership development opportunities. There's going to be massive gaps in organizational leadership throughout the world if this isn't addressed. And so this time is coming. But unfortunately, this is a massive limitation that the research didn't really outline. It didn't cover a whole lot of workplace demographics, I'll say that. There's also not any type of compensation structures that are involved. There's not any research that pertains to the adoptability of such an idea or such research. This research, I'm hoping, really starts driving discussion, driving the mindset of organizational leaders and leaders everywhere to start thinking about how they can implement having a more agile organization and increasing leadership development. But to conclude this presentation and to conclude the thesis, really where I landed is just a firm acknowledgement that the old way of doing business and waiting to be promoted, having to climb the corporate ladder, I think there's certainly something to be said about tenure, experience. There's no doubt. There's something to be said about that. However, if the point of your organization is to really capture more marketplace, capture a stronger presence in your industry, and to have your organization really be agile, you can take your traditional organizational design and move it to something more agile that is going to naturally allow your internal talent and even outside talent to be utilized to their fullest extent. And ultimately, organizations everywhere actually can be a place for people to grow, develop, and flourish, and give all of and see a nurturing of their God-given talents. Everyone has them. So why not be an organization that maximizes your organizational ability, maximizes your impact, and sees your people, the people that come to work at this organization's workplace, grow to their greatest ability, their possible maximum for the time that you're with them. So I have loved doing this research, and I have loved leadership, and organizations are such a wonderful, wonderful place the workforce today, in the workplace today, is such a wonderful place to see people grow and develop. So I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope that you enjoy your work, and I hope that this research just encourages you more and more to continue to press in and see where your organization can take you. So thank you again. This has been a great journey, and me and Billy the Bull here, sorry for this awkward stare down you have had to have this whole presentation. Me and Billy the Bull are out. Bye.